Did you know that Hitler modeled the Jewish Holocaust after the meat industry?
The largest population of vegans in the world per capita is Israel.
For reasons such as this, Mr. Yourofsky has been arrested numerous times.
If you went to the nearest cow or chicken slaughterhouse and removed the animals and replaced them with Jews, you have now recreated Auschwitz.
אוקיי, אנחנו מבינים שהדברים קצת יצאו משליטה שם, לא צפינו לסיים גם את הרעיון הזה, ככה כנראה שזה האיש.
Animals are being killed and I'm fucking raped over the goddamn coals! So this is the same thing to me that asshole did, provoke me the whole time. Hitler was dead!
So one of the greatest decisions that I've ever made is to become a vegan. And I can understand why this is becoming popular in Israel, because for me the benefits have been tremendous and it makes sense in every way that I've looked at it.
Veganism is growing at an outstanding rate. Vegans do not eat meat, and in addition, they do not consume eggs, dairy products, honey, nor use products that originate from animals. It was a popular diet among early Christians for surprising reasons. Veganism can be found within the very pages of the Bible, in which there are two choices, one supporting violence and one against violence. The early church father, Athanasius, commented, "Were we to understand sacred writ according to the letter, we should fall into enormous blasphemies, as by ascribing cruelty and falsehood to the deity." Plant-based diets and animal welfare are clearly found in Jewish history. Franklin Graham, the son of Billy Graham, announced to his 747,000 Twitter followers that he would be adopting a vegan diet in 2017, meaning he will not eat animal products. This includes no butter, eggs, or milk. He said, "Beginning January 1st, I'm going to try something drastic. I'm going on a vegan diet. Vegetables and fruit any way you can fix them. Do you think I'll survive? Everyone is betting I won't last 2 days. Remember in the Bible, Daniel went on a complete vegetable diet, and after 10 days, his appearance was better than the others who hadn't. What do you think? How long will I last?" Veganism is on the rise. The trend seems to be driven by the health benefits and a desire to reduce animal cruelty. China, the largest consumers of meat, reported in 2017 that they plan to reduce meat consumption by 50%, and other nations are taking note. The Telegraph newspaper reported in 2016 that the number of vegans in the UK has risen by a staggering 360% in the last 10 years. An exponentially growing number of Christians are turning to a vegan diet, a diet they feel is the perfect will of God. Charles Camozzi wrote in an article in the Washington Post on January 5, 2017 titled, "Why All Christians Should Be Vegan." He writes, "But many different kinds of Christians are beginning to recover a more conservative view of non-human animals, one which honors the Bible and traditional Christianity over our current practice of sacrificing billions of animals to the idol of consumerism." The largest population of vegans in the world per capita is Israel. This may surprise anyone who knows how much Israelis prize their lamb and turkey shawarma and their chicken schnitzel. Many Israelis grew up eating kosher meat with the notion that the rabbinic stamp of approval meant the process was at least marginally humane. However, since a spate of gruesome media coverage exposed the leading meat, chicken, and dairy companies of abusing animals and employees alike, Israel is looking a little closer at its food industries. One 6-part series of investigative TV programs made consumers queasy when their undercover footage showed the truth about the slaughterhouses and dairy farms of the country's largest distributor. These types of reports have uncovered widespread criminal abuse of animals in the meat and dairy industry. 1/5 of the country tuned in to see a prominent vegan activist, Tal Gilboa, win a season of the Israeli version of the Big Brother reality television show.
לא תהיה אימא אחת בישראל שתדאג שכשהיא נותנת לילד שלה איזשהו מעדן חלב, היא גזלה מאימא אחרת את התינוק שלה. היא גרמה לאימא את הצער הכי גדול בעולם.
הפכתי לצמחונית עקב טל גלבוע.
לקחתי ביס ועברתי טוב, אז לא משנה כבר.
וכשאני עומדת מולך ואני מסתכלת לך בעיניים כשאת מדברת על הדברים האלה, זה משהו אחר. זה בהחלט מחלחל, משפיע, משפיע על האישי בתוך הבית.
למה לחיות על חשבון כאב של מישהו? בלי להגיד רגע וואלה, שנייה, לא מתאים.
טל עושה את זה בלהט הכי מדהים, ומשפיעה גם על מי שנמצא בבית וגם על אנשים מסביב.
כשצריך מצחיק אותה עם שחיתות וכאלה יושבת וצוחקת, זה לא מצחיק! זה נושא לא מצחיק!
אתה רואה אותה לפעמים היא נראית לנו קיצונית, נראה לך קיצונית, היא מרגישה את זה כאילו זה הילדים שלה שם. כשהיא מרגישה את האחים שלנו סובלים, היא מרגישה את הילדים שלה עכשיו בכלום.
אני הייתי גם בדבח והייתי גם באדום אדום, בשני המקומות האלה. ראיתי אותם נכנסים, ליוויתי עגלים מהפריקה בנמל אילת, וראיתי אותם בוכים, ושמעתי אותם. והדבר הכי מפחיד בלשמוע את השחיטה, זה השקט של אחר כך. כי אתה יודע שזהו. היו חיים,
Following her win, a massive 60% of viewers surveyed by Israel's financial magazine, Globes, responded that they have a plan to change their eating habits as a result of the information and passion she shared on air. Veganism is exploding in Israel as more and more are awakening to how animals are treated in industrial meat and dairy production. Israel hosted the world's largest vegan festival in Tel Aviv in 2014. Hundreds of restaurants are now certified as vegan-friendly to meet the demand of vegan dishes. Veganism has become so prominent in Israel that the Israel Defense Forces has started catering to followers in its ranks by offering vegan-friendly ration packs, non-leather boots, and woolless berets. Even the Prime Minister is discussing animal rights in cabinet meetings. The spark of this vegan revolution in Israel could single-handedly be credited to a video of a lecture at Georgia Tech that went viral in Israel after Hebrew subtitles were added to it. The footage garnered over 1 million views on YouTube in a country of just 8 million people. The lecturer is Gary Yourofsky, a Jewish animal rights activist from Detroit, Michigan. He wears glasses, has a tattoo on his right arm, and according to his website, he has been arrested 13 times and kicked out of 5 countries for random acts of kindness and compassion.
Hello, Gary.
גרי יורופסקי.
גרי יורופסקי. האורח הבא שלי הגיע אלינו מארצות הברית, והוא מוביל טרנד עולמי של מעבר לתזונה טבעונית. בינתיים הולך לו לא רע. אפילו פה בארץ 500,000 אנשים צפו בהרצאות שלו ביוטיוב. חלקם מצטרף למלחמה שלו למען זכויות בעלי החיים. כשאני אומר מלחמה, אני מתכוון לזה. הוא אישית מוגדר כטרוריסט בקנדה וגם בארצות הברית. אז איך ילד יהודי טוב מדטרויט הופך לאחד האנשים הכי שנויים במחלוקת בשנים האחרונות? קבלו את האקטיביסט גרי יודרובסקי.
I just recently read this story about this Nazi. His name was Ernst Goebel. He and his men were executing children one day, but he didn't like the way his guards were grabbing kids by their hair before they shot them in the back of the head and tossed them in a mass grave. He actually ordered his men to stop grabbing the kids by their hair, and I quote, "Kill them in a more decent way." That story sickens me as much as the stories that meat, cheese, milk, and egg eaters love to tell. Hey, Gary, I only eat free-range freedom eggs. Hey, Gary, I only eat animals who were raised and killed humanely on a cage-free organic farm. There is no such thing as humane when it comes to meat, cheese, milk, and eggs. Humane slaughter, humane rape, humane slavery, humane holocausts do not exist.
And if for some reason my aforesaid words and the video we just watched aren't proof enough of the terrorism claims that I am levying against the meat, dairy, and egg industries and humanity itself, I don't know. Maybe the billions of dead, dismembered animal bodies could count as proof. Peace begins at the dinner table with what you put into your body on a daily basis. Good people don't talk about kindness, they practice it. They don't pray about love, they actually give it. I know you have the capability of understanding right from wrong because you all hate people who harm children. Why not despise people who harm animals? It's hypocritical. Why protect one and violate the other when neither one wants nor deserves the abuse? They just wish it would end. Speciesism, it's the first form of hatred humans are taught. Way before racism, sexism, and heterosexism is taught, speciesism is the first form of hatred. Let's eradicate that, and then maybe we can eradicate all the other forms of hatred, because I'll tell you what, I know the way we're doing it right now isn't working. Eating meat, cheese, milk, and eggs certainly isn't making this world a better place. It's making the world a worse place. Let's make an effort. And as we talk about evolution, by the way, I don't want to force evolution on people out there that are creationists. Real quickly, if you believe in creation via Judaism, Christianity, Islam, look no further than the Garden of Eden. Oops, the Garden of Eden, that vegan haven where Adam and Eve were the first vegans on this planet. Genesis 1:29, God's first dietary laws, I give you seed-bearing plants for food. God's last dietary laws, Isaiah 11:7, the wolf will live with the lamb, the cow will feed with the bear, the lion will eat straw like the ox, a child will lead them, and no one will harm on my holy mountain. It is clear and unambiguous, the beginning and the end are and will be vegan. So why don't we strive towards these perfect states? And for my religious friends that are out there, I learned a really valuable lesson last time I was here in Israel last September. They took me to see the holy city, Jerusalem. I say this with vehement sarcasm because ain't nothing holy about it. Because as I walked into Jerusalem, first I passed 3,000 vendors hawking items. Hey, Stars of David, crosses, Bibles, Korans, taluses, yarmulkes, what you need. As my wife Erica was grabbing everything and looking underneath, made in China, made in China, made in China, made in... Yeah, that's what God wants. Sell some stuff in my name. Then we got into the Wailing Wall area. Boy, that was a treat. Because what did I see but 400 people standing in front of a wall going like this? It's a wall! You're praying to a wall? God is not in a wall. He is not in a book. He is not in a star. I'll tell you what God is in, because I know what He's in. God is in His creations. How come religious people refuse to worship anything that God made, but worship everything that we made in His name? Boy, let a Bible fall on the ground. Boy, somebody kiss the Bible. Boy, let the talus touch the ground. Oh my God, the talus touch the ground. Boy, but an animal that God created, hey, kill it. Kill the right now. Cut his horns off right now. Take his baby away. Him. Every animal that God made, God is inside of. And if you kill animals, you are murdering God, and that is blasphemous and obscene. Wake up, religious people. Wake up. Because I'll tell you what, I believe in God. And I respect the things that God made. The water, the air, the oceans, the forest, and His animals. It's not asking too much. Stop doing rituals. God is not impressed if you have a really long beard, by the way. If you got a really big hat. You think God's up there, hey, look at that guy with that hat on. That's one of my most favorite creations. The guy with the big hat.
יש פה ילדה מקסימה בת 11, שכשהיא ראתה בפעם הראשונה את ההרצאה של גרי, היא הפכה להיות טבעונית. והיא כתבה לגרי מכתב, והיא רוצה לבוא ולהקריא את המכתב הזה מול כולם.
Okay.
Yeah?
I didn't write this. She wrote this. She gave it to me earlier.
Gary. My name is Pansy. I'm 11 years old. I'm vegan for almost a year. I'm really happy. I feel my soul clean. My aura is pure. I hear you talking and I feel like someone finally can speak for them. Name the animals. Day I opened my eyes, I cried a lot. I felt bad about myself. I did not believe that someone somewhere so much just to be my burger, steak, or any meat or milk on my plate. I'm working and helping all animals because no one else speak for them or put water in their plants. It's incredible how little water plants can help or save lives. I'm sure they thank you for all your help, and believe me, no one in the world who works as hard much as you. I saw your lecture and tears running down my eyes. You're really important for all people in the world. I thank you because you opened my eyes and helped me to wake up from kind of virtual reality of a perfect life. And life is not perfect. And every moment, thousands of animals suffering and are taken from their parents. And we all opened eyes will be because you. I really thank you for your gave me a moment and you read my letter. That together we change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. You're the new generation.
Thank you.
Do it for the animals. Keep going.
Why is it so effective here in Israel? How come that it's catching in Israel?
I'm not clearly sure why, but the only thing that I can figure out is that over the years, as I've talked to tens of thousands of people, I've noticed that people who have been oppressed, Jews, Hispanics, women, blacks, they always respond better to this revolution that I'm involved in because they understand oppression. They've been through it. They know what it's like to be treated like nothing, like their lives don't matter. So that's what I think is going on here. Jews have been an oppressed people for thousands of years. We understand oppression and we're supposed to not support it. So I'm just pointing this out to everybody because people don't realize how much they're harming animals in their daily lives. So as I point out, the steak, the hamburger, the chicken sandwich that you're eating, the schnitzel, okay, these pieces of meat came off the bodies of living animals who didn't want to be murdered, who didn't want to suffer and die, who didn't want to be tormented. So once I point it out to people, most people, sane people, logical people, make that next step to veganism. Let's put it this way. I like to explain how this is the biggest Holocaust that has ever existed, and people get upset at those terms.
I have to tell you that I am upset about hearing like Holocaust, comparing the Holocaust to, like every single person that heard your lectures, and to hear this Holocaust, comparing it to animals, it's a little bit,
Let me
and
explain.
you know what, and I'm not even Jewish,
Okay.
but it's hurt me.
Well, let me explain how this Holocaust is actually worse. I'm offended that we compare human Holocaust to the animal Holocaust, which is the biggest Holocaust in the history of humankind. If you went to the nearest cow or chicken slaughterhouse and removed the animals and replaced them with Jews, you have now recreated Auschwitz. There's no difference. You have a building that exists to dismantle, to torment, to torture, and murder innocent beings. Let's play a time warp game. Let's go back 60, 70 years. You go back to Auschwitz, or you go back to Birkenau, you remove the Jews and replace them with cows and chickens. You still have a Holocaust taking place. In fact, we learned how to kill Jews in the Nazis did because they studied what the meat industry was doing. We learned how to torture and kill each other because we practiced on the animals first. Do you know that Himmler, the guy that constructed all the gas chambers, was a chicken?
Maybe he wanted to slaughter Jews. This is why he had another idea, other idea.
Two of his biographers, Albert Speer and Robert Payne, talked about Hitler's love for liver dumplings and pigeon, which is known as squab. His main chef, Dion Lucas, wrote a book in 1964, the Gourmet School Cooking Book, and she wrote his favorite recipes, which were all meat-based recipes. This is the power of propaganda, the power of Goebbels, still alive and well. Do you know why people think Hitler was veg? Goebbels wanted to make Hitler seem as peaceful as somebody else in the world at that time who was loved and adored. And his name was Mohandas Gandhi. And Gandhi was vegetarian. And Goebbels would say, wait, Hitler's just like Gandhi. He loves animals too, and he's peaceful to the animals, and he's a vegetarian. He's not. And just so you know, all the concentration camps did have animal slaughterhouses there too. And when the Allied forces came in to rescue the Jews and the Gypsies, they left the animals behind. This is why I call this the world's largest and longest running Holocaust. The animal Holocaust was happening long before the Jewish Holocaust, during the Jewish Holocaust, and it's still happening today. Every second, just so you know, of every minute, of every hour, of every day, female animals are raped to impregnate them. Every second, animals are being killed. Every 60 billion animals every year.
Do you accept, or do you understand, or that people are calling you terrorist?
Sure. What else are they going to call me? You couldn't sleep at night if they called me a compassionate human being, because I'm calling them out. And as we go back in time and look at all the other people that we adore now, collectively, we all agree, Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King and all these people, Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez, you know, they were not loved during their time. They were despised. They wanted to make change, massive change. It's only later on that a society looks back at revolutionary activists and says, oh, man, he was great. He was just trying to bring peace and justice. I'm trying to bring compassion to this world. It's amazing that I'm called a terrorist. And if I'm called a terrorist for saving animals, what do we call people that kill animals and torture animals and eat animals?
Hitler's Holocaust is one of the most iconic examples of human cruelty. When Gary linked the human Holocaust to human treatment of animals, it sparked controversy, disgust, and outrage. But when those who survived the Holocaust make the link, we should listen. What do they know? All these scholars, all these philosophers, all the leaders of the world, they have convinced themselves that man, the worst transgressor of all the species, is the crown of creation. All other creatures were created merely to provide him with food, pelts, to be tormented, exterminated. In relation to them, all people are Nazis. For the animals, it is an eternal Treblinka. Isaac Bashevis Singer, Holocaust survivor. I totally embrace the comparison to the Holocaust. I feel the violence and suffering of innocents are unjust. I believe that the abuse of humans and animals and the earth come from the same need to dominate others. I feel that I could not save my family, my people, but each time I talk about cruelty to animals and being vegetarian, I might be saving another life. After knowing what I know about the Holocaust and about animal exploitation, I cannot be anything else but an animal rights advocate. Susan Kalev lost her father and her sister in the Holocaust. When I see cages with chickens from battery farms thrown on trucks like bundles of trash, I see with the eyes of my soul the Amschleplatz, where Jews were forced onto trains leaving for the death camps. When I go to a restaurant and see people devouring meat, I feel sick. I see a Holocaust on their plates. Georges Metanovsky, a Holocaust survivor who fought in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
So as many of you know, I spent my childhood years in the Warsaw Ghetto, where almost my entire family was murdered, along with about 350,000 other Polish Jews. And people sometimes will ask me whether that experience had anything to do with my work for Animalz. It didn't have a little to do with my work for Animalz. It had everything to do with my work for Animalz.
These quotes and comments are sobering.
Did you know that Hitler modeled the Jewish Holocaust after the meat industry? The non-human animal Holocaust has been going on before Auschwitz and continues to go on till this very day. If you're not vegan, you're supporting a Holocaust, and if you are vegan, you're not supporting a Holocaust, and it's your choice. You don't have to support a Holocaust. You can go vegan and stop the Holocaust, but until then, you're supporting the Holocaust. You're demanding these animal products to be on your plate, and they're supplying it by running the Holocaust, and you're keeping it in business by consuming animal products. So you're supporting the Holocaust. How cool is that? That's pretty cool. No, it's not. The non-human animal Holocaust is the largest Holocaust to go on that most everyone is supporting because of their addictions to animal products. So go vegan if you don't want to support the Holocaust. Being vegan has given me more of a fulfilling purpose and something to fight for, and it's also really fun to be more aware of what you consume and how it affects not only your body, but your soul and this planet that I live on and that you live on and we all live on, and others on this planet. And I like that. It's fun and it gives me a purpose, and I feel like I'm doing something good, and I know that I'm doing something good. Growth of veganism anywhere is amazing, and the fact that veganism is so popular in Israel is everything. A Holocaust, by definition, is destruction or slaughter on a mass scale, and factory farming is a mass amount of sentient beings who are being exploited, tortured, and slaughtered due to their species. The negative comments aren't necessarily negative, they're more ignorant, because these people who leave these comments don't really understand what goes on when they consume animal products. And yes, there are some people who do understand what goes on when they consume animal products, but they value the lives over humans rather than non-human animals. And each positive comment is always great because it's a reminder that people get it and you're not alone. Like my friend Jackson's comment, who is better known as Plantriotic. He left a comment on one of my videos comparing the Holocaust to factory farming, and he's Jewish, and he said he gets it, and he completely agrees that the Holocaust is the same as factory farming. I never really thought about this, but absolutely, meat and dairy products contribute to most all diseases in the world. These are life-threatening diseases. So every single person in the world has the right to know what they're signing up for when they buy a gallon of milk or a carton of eggs.
My name is Shira Herzano from Anonymous for Animal Rights. So Anonymous for Animal Rights has been a leading voice for the animals in Israel ever since it was founded in 1994. Our main focus is the animal abuse in the food industry, so naturally we promote cruelty-free choices. We run big campaigns that usually include both a public and a legal aspect, aiming at different forms of animal abuse in the food industry. Anonymous conducts undercover investigations which form the basis of legal actions and the media exposures, which raise public awareness to the suffering of animals in factory farms and encourages many to choose veganism. These investigations induced public outrage. Once people witness this horrible cruelty, they don't want to take part in it. So the Israeli public is now more aware of the huge costs of factory farming and the damage caused to the animals, to the environment, and to public health. So this concern unites all sectors of Israel society, the religious and secular, Jews and Arabs. So since vegans are diverse, they affect the people around them, and this enables us to keep the growth going. We also put a lot of emphasis in education, and about 40,000 people attend our lectures annually. Thousands of other people meet us at information stands and meetouts throughout the country. So since Animalz was founded in 1994, there has been a continuous growth of the animal rights movement, with more and more people joining the struggle to end the oppression of animals. At around 2012 or so, we noticed a major growth, and veganism became publicly familiar. People all over the country know what veganism is. This vegan movement gets bigger and stronger every day.
So veganism is not a religion. It's a life choice that people make, that I've made, to live in a way that's logical and rational, with other sentient beings, so we cause the least amount of harm to other sentient beings on this earth. So it makes sense in every way.
But what are the roots of this movement, and how are they related to Jewish history and the Bible? The facts are enlightening, and they provide us with insight into historical Jewish and Christian views on animal welfare. The media regularly report on numerous cases of animal cruelty from around the world. Most governments pass laws protecting animals. Is the Bible against animal cruelty? Pope Benedict XVI invoked sacred scripture when he told a journalist in 2002 that degrading of living creatures to a commodity seems to me, in fact, to contradict the relationship of mutuality that comes across in the Bible. Within its pages, there are remarkable statements about animal care. A righteous man has regard for the life of his animal, but even the compassion of the wicked is cruel. The Lord is good to all. He has compassion on all he has made. But whoever sacrifices a bull is like one who kills a person, and whoever offers a lamb is like one who breaks a dog's neck. Surely respect for all living creatures is the responsibility of all Bible believers.
People are waking up to the fact that we don't need to eat meat or consume dairy products, because we can get our nutrients from other sources, exactly where the animals get it from. And this is what people in Israel are coming to understand, that there is no need, except for in a survival situation, there is no need to consume meat or dairy products.
Genesis 1 and 2 are among the most pro-animal texts in the Bible. It is there we discover that the original diet for both humans and animals was vegan. This is repeated 3 times in the early chapters of Genesis. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. Permission from God to eat certain animals was granted only after the flood story, since the flood would have destroyed most vegetation. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. Scholars observe that the exact word used in the Septuagint in Genesis 9 verse 3, herpeton, which they say means reptile. So this is permission to only eat animals such as crabs, abalone, lobsters and snails, basically animals with no blood. This is consistent with the very next verse. Genesis chapter 9 verse 4 reads, But you must never eat any meat that still has the lifeblood in it. The next verse then seems to indicate that if you kill those animals, God will seek your life by the very animals you kill. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. Reuben Alcalai's complete Hebrew-English dictionary provides a startling, literal translation of this verse. Your life I will seek at the hand of every creature you slay.
So it's not natural for humans to eat meat. It's not normal. It's not the way we are structured in our physical build. So when somebody sees strawberry or they see a pig, their mouth doesn't water when they see the pig, but their mouth does water when they see a strawberry. Because if we saw, if you witnessed a live pig being slaughtered, then you would actually be disgusted by it, because you're not a carnivore. But a carnivore is not disgusted by all that blood and all that killing. But a herbivore, to a herbivore, that sight is disgusting, it's filthy, and their mouth doesn't water when they see a pig's throat cut in half. So we are herbivores and not carnivores by nature.
The ideal future diet described in the Bible is also vegan. In that day, I will also make a covenant for them with all the wild animals and the birds of the sky and the animals that scurry along the ground, and I will abolish the bow, the sword, and war from the land, and I will make them lie down in safety. And the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little boy will lead them. The wolf and the lamb shall graze together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. These texts refer to a non-meat diet. So according to the Bible, vegetarianism or veganism is the ideal norm in the beginning and in the future. In between, Christians describe humans as being in a fallen state. Some would claim all things are permitted, but the truth is, all things are not wise. Biblically, it appears that in the afterlife, there will be no meat eating. This must be the perfect will of God. Do you want to do His will on earth as it is in heaven?
We need to align our values with our actions, because it's actually not possible to justify the killing of innocent sentient beings just because we want to do it, not because we need to do it. That's why people pay someone else to do it, because they know deep down that it's wrong. And that's why slaughterhouses are not downtown or in the town center, but they're located on the outskirts of a town or far away from people, so we don't hear and see what's going on, because deep down we know that it's wrong. It might be convenient to consume meat and dairy products, but does convenience justify cruelty?
Throughout the Bible, you'll see that flesh was not the ideal diet, but was temporarily permitted because of the lust of fallen human. There are several occasions in the New Testament where the word meat is translated from 5 original Greek words: broma, brosimos, prosphagion, trop, and phago. In none of these instances can animal flesh be explicitly concurred. The original words refer to general sustenance. In the wilderness, God sustained the Israelites on a diet of manna. Manna was described as similar to coriander seed, a vegan dish to be sure. The Israelites complained and demanded meat instead of God's choice, the filling and healthy manna. So who were these meat lovers? The Torah described them in Hebrew as ha'asasuf. The Jewish Publication Society translates this word as the riffraff. This is one of many instances of the Torah expressing disdain for meat eating. The Lord heard you when you wailed. If only we had meat to eat. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month until it comes out of your nostrils, and you loathe it because you have rejected the Lord. In Numbers chapter 11 verse 4, the Hebrew word used to describe the riffraff's desire for meat is ta'ava. The Jewish Publication Society translates that as gluttonous craving. While the meat was still between their teeth, they were destroyed. In Deuteronomy 12 verse 20, when the Israelites are getting their final instructions before entering the land of Israel, they are told that they can eat meat if they have the urge to do so. The urge is described as ta'ave, a gluttonous craving. It is clear that meat eating was not God's ideal diet.
You see, people in Israel are waking up to the fact that the meat on their plate was once a living being with a will to live. That's what people in Israel are waking up to.
Evangelicals in early 19th century England, like William Wilberforce and Hannah More, were strong advocates for animal protection. There were Christians in the early church who taught that neither man nor animals were created to eat meat. Vegetarianism and veganism were popular amongst the early Christians. Most of the writings of vegetarian Christian sects were destroyed during the persecutions of heretics by the church, although ancient fragments of manuscripts still survive. The following piece of Aramaic scripture, stored in the Vatican Library, has been quoted in several vegetarian publications. Jesus answered, "And the fresh slain beasts in his body will become his own tomb. For I tell you truly, he who kills, kills himself, and whoso eats the flesh of slain beasts, eats the body of death." Other early Christian historical documents observe that many influential Christians during the formative centuries of Christianity were vegetarian. Basil the Great, Origen, Tertullian, Clement of Alexandria, and many others were all vegetarians. Origen's work, Contra Celsum, quotes Celsus commenting regarding vegetarian practices among Christians with whom he had contact. Augustine opposed vegetarian Christians, yet he stated that their numbers were many. He states that the vegetarian Christians who abstain both from flesh and from wine are without number. The Clementine Homilies, a 2nd century work purportedly based on the teachings of the Apostle Peter, states, "The unnatural eating of flesh meat is as polluting as the heathen worship of devils. With its sacrifices and its impure feasts, and through participation in it, a man becomes a fellow eater with devils." All the apostles abstained from meat and wine. Jacob, the brother of the Lord, lived on seeds and plants and touched neither meat nor wine. James, the brother of the Lord, was holy from his mother's womb, and he drank no wine nor strong drink, nor did he eat flesh. And happiness is found in the practice of virtue. Accordingly, the Apostle Matthew partook of seeds and nuts and vegetables without flesh. Clement of Alexandria. The early Christian vegetarians that Paul talks about clearly were offended by the thought that other believers might sacrifice animals or eat meat. They believed that all followers of Jesus should be vegetarians. So who are these troublemaking vegetarians who must not be offended? Comparing the disputes over vegetarianism and animal sacrifice in Romans 14 and 1 Corinthians 8-10 with the murky food dispute in Galatians 2, it appears that these troublemaking vegetarians were the leaders of the early church, James, Peter, and John. At the end of John's Gospel, the writer concedes that the New Testament can contain only a fraction of Christ's teachings. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them was written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. When biblical parables mention meat dishes, it appears they were incidental terminology which his audience could relate to. In the early church, some Christian groups maintained that Jesus was himself a vegetarian according to the definition of the time. James, the brother of Jesus and leader of the early Jewish Christian church, was a vegetarian. In fact, in ecclesiastical history, Eusebius states that James was even raised by his parents as a vegetarian. Why would his parents do this unless they were vegetarians too? If they were vegetarian and raised their family as vegetarian, does that mean Jesus was raised as a vegetarian? There are no recorded instances in the Gospels of Jesus eating red meat. Epiphanius quotes the Gospel of Ebionites, where Jesus has a confrontation with the high priest. "I am come to end the sacrifices and feasts of blood. And if you cease not offering and eating of flesh and blood, the wrath of God shall not cease from you, even as it came to your fathers in the wilderness, who lusted for flesh, and did eat to their content, and were filled with rottenness, and the plague consumed them." In Acts chapter 4, the early Christians were known as Ebionites, the Jewish Christian group that Jesus' brother James was the leader of. their writings disclose that God did not want animals killed. They even went so far as to condemn those who even taste meat. These Jewish Christians believed that God never gave Moses any commandments to sacrifice animals, nor instructions for war, and that these were later additions. Jewish history clearly shows that many Jews opposed the concept of a bloodthirsty God who desired animal sacrifices. These voices are also echoed in the pages of the Bible. For when I brought your ancestors out of Egypt and spoke to them, I did not give them commands about burnt offerings and sacrifices. Jesus himself twice quoted the prophets when he said, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. The temple incident in the Gospels was interpreted by early Christians as evidence for his disdain for animal sacrifices. We note that he made the whip specifically to drive out the animals, not to strike the people. In the temple courts he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords, and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, Get these out of here. Stop turning my father's house into a market. This is clearly a reference to the words of Jeremiah. Has this house, which bears my name, become a den of robbers to you? But I have been watching, declares the Lord. From the writing of Jeremiah, it appears he opposed animal sacrifices.
It took over 400 years for the West to realize that black people were not slave material to be abused, murdered, raped, and kept as slaves. And it took even longer, and it's taking even longer, for people to realize that women are not second-class citizens. In the same way, people need to wake up to the fact that animals are not food for us humans, and that we need to evolve to a higher way of thinking and understanding, and not be living in the barbaric past. Smoking used to be considered healthy, and even doctors would recommend smoking if you go back and look at the early days of smoking. And now today, smoking carries health warnings on the packaging, and in some countries, even in the UK, the cigarettes are not displayed publicly in shops, they're hidden. So the day will come when meat will carry a health warning because it's dangerous and not designed for humans. That's why it's not good for humans to eat raw meat. You see, chemicals have to be added to meat to make it safe to eat for humans. Or should I say safer, not safe, but safer. You have to ask yourself, which disease do you get from eating fruit and vegetables? You don't get any. But all this illnesses, diseases, and things that we get that are harmful to our body comes from consuming meat and dairy products.
Apart from raising public awareness, we work to assist people to change their diet. One of our biggest projects is Challenge 22, which is a 22-day vegan experience supported by a team of dietitians, cooks, longtime vegans. Following the success of the project in Israel, we initiated an international program with participants from all over the world.
After the abolishment of slavery and the fight for women's rights, could animal abuse be the next challenge humans must face head-on? Perhaps we will look back one day in horror at the way animals were routinely mistreated, in the same way we now view with revulsion the treatment of slaves and women in history. Prior to the video by Gary Yourofsky, Israeli vegans made the switch for health reasons. A lot of Israeli cuisine is already vegan. They are already used to being mindful about what they eat. 75% of Israeli Jews keep kosher, so they're already used to cutting certain foods out of their diets, and nearly all vegan products are already kosher.
We believe the growth is a combination of the culinary culture in the region and the diversity within the vegan movement, both of the people and of the actions. Israel has always been vegan-friendly. Much of the local Middle Eastern cuisine is plant-based. You can find falafel and hummus everywhere, and these are vegan. And there's a great variety of fruits and vegetables. Due to kosher rules of Judaism, there is also a great variety of non-dairy products, and many of these are vegan. So we had wonderful conditions to start with.
The current vegan revolution, however, is about animal welfare.
Another contributor is the undercover investigations. Anonymous for Animal Rights has conducted a series of undercover investigations in factory farms, which were broadcasted on national TV and went viral in social media, a tool that wasn't around in the 90s, which also played a huge role in the growth. As for the future, we're only at the beginning, and we need to keep working hard to encourage more people to make compassionate food choices and support people who are open to try veganism. I believe we will see more growth in the near future, and we should expect a strong backlash led by the animal food industry. We're already seeing some of it today. The industry feels the pressure and invests resources to improve its image in the public eye. They work harder to conceal the reality of what it means to eat animals. For example, in Israel, until recently, people could buy live fish and have the fish killed in front of them. But now the industry has stopped this practice. We already see some so-called humane branding of products, and we must be prepared to expose those lies and to overcome the backlash to continue our growth. Many people want to try veganism, but they don't know how to start. So in Challenge 22, they learn how to cook a tasty and nutritious meat-free lunch with lots of protein. They try great recipes and see that we don't need eggs or dairy to bake delicious cakes. They chat with vegan athletes, professional dietitians, and vegan parents who share their ideas of how to encourage children to eat healthy food. We see many young adults choosing veganism, more parents who raise their children vegan, and these children may be the future activists. So I think there is room for optimism. I hope that within the next decade we will see the vegan movement crossing the threshold of 10% vegans in the entire population in Israel. And these vegans, along with allies such as vegetarians, reducitarians, and environmentalists, could really deepen the impact and bring the revolution closer to our times.
Because Israel is such a small and community-oriented country, when something big happens, word travels fast. The vegan movement is spreading beyond Israel's borders. Yourofsky's video has been translated into over 30 other languages. Israel is a young nation with a culture which is still evolving and an appreciation for innovation. Perhaps Israel could become the first vegan nation.